Okay, for this video, we're going to look at how to do the dimensioning project. So we're going to first open up our student drive and go to our period number and then go to the dimensioning folder. We're going to need to make a new folder for our stuff. So you'll type your name in the folder to rename it. And these two files that you're given, we're going to copy those two. That's the block and the project file. We're going to put that in your folder. Next, we'll open up the project file to open up Inventor. And you're already given a part, so we'll need to make a drawing. So we're going to click Drawing here, and we'll put in your name, and then period, and click OK. So once we get our sheet up, we're going to click Base up in the top left corner. So the first thing we'll need to do is tell the computer what file we want to make a drawing of, which is the dimensioning block that you're given, and we'll click open. Before we do anything else, we'll need to make sure here in this box, we'll need to make sure that the hidden line button here is blue and the other two are grayed out, and that the scale is 1:1. We'll need to move this shape close to the bottom left corner, not in the bottom left corner, not like this, but we want to give it some space like so. Then up above it, we'll need to click once, and over here to the right of this first shape, we'll need to click once. And what that does is it applies two different views of this object, so we have a total of three. So this is the front of this block. This is looking down on top of the block. And this is looking at the block from the right side. So what we're doing in this activity is we're making a drawing that somebody would actually be able to go and make this part from. So they have to be able to see different sides of the part to be able to make it. They also need dimensions. So if we go up here to the Annotate tab and we click Dimension, we also can put in the measurements for how long these lines are and how big the circles are and where the circles are placed. So when you go and you start putting in these dimensions, there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can click on an entire line and it will measure whatever is highlighted, so mine's highlighted in red. Or you can go from corner to corner, which are going to show up as green dots. So I can click corner to corner and it will measure how long that space is, or in this case, that line. So once you do that, this box will come up. If you uncheck this checkbox here, this box won't come up anymore. Unless you like double click on the measurements, then it'll come back up. Otherwise you won't see it, which is helpful, won't get in the way. So what we're doing is we're going through and putting in the measurements for all these different line segments. Notice as I put in the measurements, they are not sitting on top of the shapes and they're all in line. So try to make it nice and neat. So if you look on Canvas, you'll see all of my measurements, and yours should look the same and should be in the same place is what we're looking for. So I go around the outside of my shape. I'm going to put in the measurements for all these different lines. Next, after I finish that, I'm going to go in and I have a circle. So I need to tell it how wide the circle is, the diameter. So if I click on the circle and I move my arrow a little bit away, I'm going to put my measurement right here. And the reason I'm putting it on the inside of the object, on top of the object, is because there's no room on the outside, and I don't want this line just going off the screen somewhere. So I want to make it as neat and easy to see as possible. So in this case, I have to put that right here on top of this block, or else there would be no room for it. The next thing is I'm going to go over to the left side of my block here. I'm going to pick this line, and what I want to do is I want to measure from this line over to the center of the circle, because I need to know where the circle is placed, where this hole is placed. Otherwise, if it's not measured, then somebody's not going to know how far over it needs to go. So in this case, it's 1 inch. I also need to know how far from the bottom of the block this circle is. Now when you go in and you start picking these um, points, you'll notice that if I put my mouse over the end of this line, there's a point. But there also should be a point here for the center of the circle. Let's try that again. Now, there it is. Okay, so if I zoom in, there's the center of the circle, and there is the end of the line. I want to make sure I pick the center of the circle, and then make sure I have the bottom of the block, because if I don't pick the correct one, I won't get the right measurements. So I need to make sure I pick the center of the circle and not the end of this line here. So that should be 1 inch. So I'll continue and go around. I think that's it for this part. Let's go over here. So if I need to make a measurement that goes from this corner to this corner, I try to click this line. It doesn't measure all the way up. It just measures this line segment. So that's no good. So what I want to do is I want to pick both these line segments and measure all the way up and down. So I can click corner to corner and it will do that. And then for my circle here, I need to do the same thing as I did over on the other side. So I click from the center of the circle over to the side of the block here and put my measurement. And I need to click from the top of the block to the center of the circle and zoom in, make sure that's what I'm actually grabbing, and put in my measurements. Now I'm not going to do every single one, but I'm just trying to show you what I'm looking for here. So the measurements should all be around the outside of the object and as much as possible, and should be not lined up and nice and neat. So if I have numbers on top of each other like this, I can't tell what is what. So we need to make sure everything is separated but lined up nice and neat. So if you have to move your shapes, press escape on the keyboard and you can click on the numbers and you can move them around like I'm doing in case something there isn't lined up correctly. So before we finish this, we also need to put in our parts list. So we're going to put that in, click the parts list, and then click our block here. Click OK, and if it asks another box, just click OK. And we're going to put our parts list up there. And if we need to move our shape here, we can just click on this box, dashed line, and move things around a little bit so everything fits. And then we'll need to put a balloon, and only one balloon because there's only one part. So we're going to click on this front view here and put our single balloon in. So once we're done, make sure you've had this saved. You should be saving as you're working in case something happens, and then make sure you do your export and then PDF, which then you'll be able to send to me in Canvas.